Hey everybody, some Firefire here. So I said that I wanted to talk about Queen Cleopatra Netflix on Netflix. And I did have some commentary on it. Um but let's start with the positive. I actually did find it interesting, and I feel like it is kind of it's well, you know what? I'll give it a little more credit than that. It's a very it's easy to follow if you don't know anything about really if you only know like the basics of Egyptology and like basically only know like the basis of Egyptology, like there were ancient pharaohs back then. There was Egyptian myths back then. There was stuff like that. Um, like if you only know like the basis of stuff, or um, actually, I was gonna say the basics of Cleopatra, but then you wouldn't be watching it if it was you knew the basics of Cleopatra. But like if you wanted to understand the basics of Cleopatra and her life and like why she was so famous, I think it's good. Um the reason all one the biggest reason why I thought it was entertaining is because it's a historical drama. Obviously this is what historical dramas do. They make it enticing for you to watch. It's like when I was on the first episode, I had to take a breather because I was just like, okay, but I'm still on this on the good part. But the second when I got to the second episode, I was just like I have to watch more, and then I got to the third episode, and I was like I have to watch more, and so I was satisfied. I was satisfied watching it. I was satisfied watching the I want to say docu series, but it wasn't a docu series. It was just historical drama series. Um, it was very entertaining, and I liked it. Um, yeah, so a lot of sex. Just putting that out there. That's why it's rated TV 14. So just putting that out there. A lot of sex, and but Cleopatra was she's known to be like a seductress kind of thing type going on. Um, that actually leads me into what I wanted the bad parts. I don't want to necessarily say bad because you know what I wanted to say Jada Pinkett Smith try, but like no, she didn't try. I was gonna be nice, but I'm like no, I don't have to be nice. I don't owe anyone, especially her. I don't owe her any niceness. Okay, so she didn't try because she had because I didn't know before. I thought it was just Cleopatra, but she has another series which I actually do want to watch because it's about a black queen, and I forget what the name of the series was, but it was about another black queen, and it's just like um so you did that, and you could have talked about any other queen. You had that mini series talking about a African queen. And by the way, and she said she said in an interview, I want I want to tell stories about these African queens, and I want to show this as an example to my daughter. It's like, first of all, when has Will ever been ashamed of being black before? I don't know. But okay, it's just weird that she chose Cleopatra when there's a multitude of evidence stating the fact that she was a white Greek Macedonian, not a black Greek Macedonian, because there are native black. There can I'm not saying that there aren't, but there can be some black Greek Macedonians, but we know Greek and Macedonian people tend to be white, and there's a multitude of evidence supporting that. Now, the thing is, where I could, and this is very small, I could see her being black, is because there was there was like one, I think one historian that said, well, she could be black. She there's some evidence that says that could state that she could be black, and there was a big could there. So like, and that's the other thing I want to go to. There are some problem with the historians on this. There was a problem with some of the historians on this um this series too. So I think it was I think it was one of it was it was I forget which one. Like, I had it in my head and I didn't write it down, but one of the historians said it could happen, and which is which contrasts to like this other historian who said, well, she didn't outright say it, but she said that she she was the first historian that was introduced in she was the first historian that was introduced in what's call it, in the series, in episode 1. So it's like, so she's giving us a background about her, about when she was learning like Egypt and like about the Roman Empire and stuff like that. And her mother, and then she's telling this to her mother, and then her mother says, I don't care what anybody tells you, Cleopatra was black. And so it's like, so it sets up the whole narrative that she is that her mom was actually right. And it's just like, wait a second, did your mom have a background in this? Why did she say that? It's like, and but I can understand where her mom is coming from, obviously, because when you are in a society where a lot of your culture a lot of your culture and a lot of your history has been whitewashed, you don't know who, like, and you hear that she lived in Africa, you're just like, oh, so how much other how many other stuff is whitewashed? So you automatically think, oh, so it might be Cleopatra must have been black, because they're trying to say that Cleopatra was white, and it makes sense. But, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought Cleopatra was black too until I found out, oh, she was actually Macedonian Greek. Oh, she's from the Ptolemy period. Oh, the Ptolemy was the Ptolemy was second in command to Alexander the Great. So, and Alexander gave him Egypt. So she's in a class of whiteness, and she's in a race. She's Caucasian. She's Caucasian. Her ancestors are from the Caucasus Mountains. So that's it. But then you have the this other historian, and like it makes a difference when the first woman that was introduced was a black woman who said this, that her mom said, "Oh, Cleopatra's black." And then in when you watch it through, and we are still on episode 1, when when you're watching it, then you have one of them say, "Well, she could be white because of da 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 da." I didn't get exactly everything. I didn't write that part down, but I did. That was a big could be black. So that was just like, so then why would you, they both contradicted each other. You can't, and and basically, and the woman who what's her name? Her name is um shoot, did I get her name down? Jacqueline Williams. Is this? No, that's not no, that's not her. Oh no, it's Shelley P. Haley. That was her name. And she's a professor at Hamilton College of Classics. Um I mean, I'm not saying that classics, you can't have a classics person commenting on this, but it's just like I would have gotten somebody else. Like, because the rest of the historians were looking at, were art historians or archaeology or Egyptologists, and um she was just in the classics. So I don't know that I've only dealt a little bit in the classics, so I don't really know. But I don't really know exactly like what type of range classics, like a classics major would be in. A classic major would have. But I'm just saying, when I studied classics for like a very short amount of period, we basically just looked at classic, like we looked at like Aristophanes, or um what's her name? Who was on the that poet from the island of Lesbos? Um yeah, Sappho's, yes. Um so yeah, stuff like that. But I digress. So basically, she the whole series basically says that, oh, we're creating a narrative that we want you to follow, because I'm making a statement, I'm making a political statement, and this is my agenda, and I want you to realize it. I'm not saying that um people haven't used history for create their political agenda, but I'm saying like this is blatant. Like you start out with a historian who who comes out with their bias saying, my mom said this, and basically she's saying, oh well, I believed my mom. And you're a professor at a college, and and you say, oh well, this is my take on this is basically what my mom's take on this was. So basically you're saying you believed your mom. You didn't do your own research on this? And like, at the end of the series, they also finished with her saying, oh, with her saying, "Oh, well, I never really wanted to do it. I never really wanted to look at Cleopatra. I never really." And it's just like, but I had dreams of Cleopatra come saying, "Tell my story, tell my story." Um, okay. I mean, I'm not doubting her, but it's just this is just so biased, and I hate that. And it's like, a good scholar, it doesn't matter if you're a historian, no matter if you're a doctor, if you're a sociologist, no matter what, if you're any type of scholar, you would know that ethics, having ethical standards in your field is very, and identifying bias, especially your bias, is very important when you work working with a social science. And if you come out that blatant and say, basically, you're trying to say, well, basically, that's like saying that all the evidence that we've seen from about Cleopatra and her race are nullified because my mom said so. Um, Now I'm not saying that. I'm obviously not saying that she said my, because my mom said so, so then it's right, because like that would be childish. But you're painting the narrative. It's just her and Jada were painting the narrative that we're creating an agenda, and this, all African queens are this particular thing. And it's like, for Jada to say, "Oh, I'm trying to tell these black women stories," and it's like, you're not doing any black woman. You're not doing me as a black woman, because I can speak for myself as a black woman. You're not doing me a favor by telling this story when I already know that she was not black. Yes, yes, the modern human comes from one race, but it diverged into other races. And it's like, it's people are people get mad when they hear the word black people get, okay, I'm not saying people, black people get mad when they hear the word blackfishing. And it was blackfishing. It taking people, I mean, not blackfishing, blackwashing. Black people love to say, a, a lot of people in our community love to say, "Oh, they were whitewashing, they were whitewashing." But then, when it but what do you call this? This was blackwashing right here. And like, so now, guess what's happening? Netflix is being Egypt. I've heard that Egypt, an Egyptian lawyer, is now suing Netflix for this. Countless Egyptians have come out and denounced this. They're very upset. And for the actor, her name is Adele James, I believe. She she's a very good actor. She's beautiful. Um for But she, I know, I'm pretty sure I heard that she said that, oh, I don't quote me on this, though, because I forget exactly where I saw it. So I heard that she said that if you don't watch it, you are racist, or I don't know, or something like that. It had something to do with white supremacy and racism. It's just like, I think that's the same. That's basically the same thing that what's her name said. Viola Davis said um, the, when Woman King came out, and it's just like, but this is not actual history. This is it's entertaining, but it's not actual history. When you are claiming, this would be great if they just said, oh, this is historical fiction, and they didn't have the historians at all saying that, talking about her, and like they just had like a movie or something. I would watch that. I think a lot of people would watch that and they would like it, because who at that point, no one would care who what race, what no one would care what race, what ethnicity the actress would be to play Cleopatra. But the thing is, you claim it's reality when this is not reality. And it's very insulting to, I can see why Egyptians are very insulted. That's like that's like Egypt creating a it's like Egypt creating a a historical drama on George Washington, and having George Washington as a white person. It's I mean, not George Washington as a black person. And it's just like, he wasn't a black person. So it's very disheartening. Like, but like I said before, it does, it lists, it's very good at giving like a blueprint of what of Cleopatra, and like her journey throughout everything. Because I know, obviously, I know she had Caesar's baby, and I know she had Mark Antony's baby and everything leading up to this. But the thing is, there is one other thing, is that there was a time when in the scene, and this is still, we're still on episode 1, and the scene where she is getting she is they're putting on her robes for her to get married to her brother Ptolemy the 13th. um the one of her servants looks at her one of her work, and she says, and Cleopatra says, "Oh, I'm not finished yet." And the servant looks at it like with amazement and said, "You should have been a scholar." And it's just like, the thing is, it's kind of pushing it when okay, yeah, Cleopatra was very, she was very smart, and she bothered to learn Egyptian. um but I think that I think it shows that it's just like, oh, woman, like, see, African people, especially an African woman, is not just a pretty face that's sitting on the throne. She knows her stuff. She knows strategy. And it's just like, a lot of queens. There are a lot of queens who are involved in their country. A lot of queens who were involved in their country. There were some who weren't. Like, a lot of women in the British period, in Victorian era, use Queen Victoria as a way to, as representation of their suffrage movement, but women's suffrage movement. But Queen Victoria, she didn't want to be involved at all. She just wanted to be a pretty face sitting. She got Albert to basically do a lot of the stuff for her as a queen. She was just like, I'm just here. And also Queen Victoria, she liked to have a lot of sex too. So I'm just that's how we got Victoria's Secret. True story. Um and also there's one I actually thought a lot of the historians in I actually thought a lot of the historians were very um well, most of the historians, I thought a lot most of the historians were very um professional. I thought that especially I want to shout out to Colleen Darnell. I if you saw her, she's the one with the really short bob. It's like I love it. I love her. I just love her style. I love her I love her fashion style, her makeup, the clothes. I just thought I was like, "Oh my god, you look like you're from the vintage era," and I just love it. And but I'm not here to talk about her her ensemble no matter how great it was. But I was just I every time she talked, I would just love her. Every time I just loved and I loved her and she kept it like usually when I talk about something that I love, I'm just my voice gets getting louder and louder because I'm just like, how are you guys not so excited about this? And other people are just like, I don't really see what you're why you're so happy about this. But I could tell that like she was just so happy talking about this and it really got me engaged. And that's the reason why I like these stuff. I mean, PBS also has like I watched a lot of his it's not well, PBS doesn't have that many historical dramas, but I mean, well, they have stuff where historians talk and then they have dramatic scenes. But I mean, the dramatic scenes aren't as big as the the one as Cleopatra on Netflix, Netflix one. But um I do have um that's also to say so they said that Cleo when in the scene where Cleopatra was smuggled she had to leave Egypt. um I forget why. Anyways, it was just because I think because her brother I think was trying to usurp her, Ptolemy the 13th, and it's just like it's just like it's just like any other royal family. A lot of royal families try to usurp each other. It's not really new, but I don't know why in the show they tried to make it seem like, oh my gosh, he's trying to kill him and she's trying to kill her. It's like that that happens all the time. Um so they try when Cleopatra was tried to get back into the palace to claim Egypt back from her brother. um they made they said that she it said that she was wrapped up in a carpet when she was smuggled back into the palace. um and a, people some historians don't know if that's true or not. I never knew that part, but I never heard her wrapped in a carpet. But they said that Plutarch, who lived who came up with that she was smuggled on the carpet. And and he was he was 150 years after Cleopatra was died. So um and Shelly P. Haley was just like with an attitude. She said he doesn't know, and it's just like, then how do you know? It's basically, it gave the attitude. It's just like, so he doesn't know. It's just like, why don't you say, well, he didn't really act. We don't know if he actually knew that, or like, or where he got that from. Which you I didn't I we didn't need the attitude. It was just a little too much. Um and also there was one other bias. I mean, I could was Shelly P. Haley in the first episode. I could say a lot about her bias, but I'm going to go to someone else. Um, there was one where, which was weird. There was only one man in the whole series who was historian. So like, I was just like, and there was one, two, three, four, five, six. There were six people, but there was only one man. Um, so I would have liked to see another man another man's point of view, from another historian who was the male's point of view of this, but okay. um Again, bias, woman, female bias, that's just there. It's like, you're going to have female bias, but I would kind of like to see like half and half, like what a female's perspective and a man's perspective of talking about Cleopatra. um but we only have one man out of six historians. So there's another historian, um Dr. Islam Isa. I hope I'm saying it right. He There was one thing I thought he was okay, but he said something to me that was like, showed a little bit of bias. Um so he said, I imagine her to have curly hair and skin like me. But before, he says, everyone can imagine her in their own way. I imagine her to have curly hair and skin like me. That kind of sounds kind of biased. You could you could read it in like, well, I mean, all her people loved her and they saw her in any way, so like we should do the same thing. But it's just like, but then when you at the second part is like, I imagine her to have curly hair and skin like me, then it's just like, so the bias thing, it's still getting to me. um it's just there was a lot of bias in this historical um series, and it's really sad. And there were, and just looking how many black, how, just knowing that, like, I'm not an Egyptologist, but I know that I know that I'm not an Egyptologist, and I haven't studied a lot of um Egyptian pharaohs, Egyptian royalty, or Egyptian philosophy, but I know that there are lots of other queens out there who are black, who are Egyptian, who were in the royal family, not the Ptolemy period, but who you could talk about. Queen Nefertiti. The reason why they chose Queen Cleopatra is because they thought she because she was so famous that it would rack in views, but it didn't. It got a very low rating. You could talk about Queen Nefertiti. She was black. I believe she was the mother to King Tut. Um, I forget. You could talk about Hatshepsut. I've never read her. I've never heard of her until I saw this book, because I was just like, oh, you know what? I know nothing about Egyptian history. I know almost nothing about Egyptian. I picked this up. I found out she was the woman who would be king. She would basically rule through her stepson, and that is amazing. But you have a bunch of opportunities to speak on actual Egyptian history, yet you choose to embellish this historical drama. I'm not saying that other historical dramas don't embellish things, but but they admit to saying, "Oh, we embellish these things because we want the views more than we want to tell. We do want to tell a story, but we still want views." And it's just like, okay, that's fine, but don't admit to doing something. Don't admit to saying that you don't admit to saying that you embellished it when we all know you did embellish it, and you want to pass it off as true. It's just not true. That's why, because you're not being truthful. That's why no one appreciates what your contribution to to this Netflix series. And for Netflix to just say, "Oh, you know what? Bring it in, bring it in." It's like you could have just, or like even if you, or you could have just stopped at that one drama that one series that you did about, I think I think her name was Njinga. I'm not again, I didn't watch that one yet because I didn't see that one until they recommended that one for me. So I'll watch it. I watched the Cleopatra one during the weekend, and I finished at the end of the weekend, so I didn't get to watch that one. So I'll probably watch that next. But this is but I can't understand why someone would do this. I mean, I think this is like, I can see why Egyptians are mad. I'm mad because you use my race, and I cannot speak for all black people and all black women, but for me, you use my race, you use my gender, saying that, and you're saying this will empower me. This doesn't empower me. This makes me think that, oh, this you're basically as bad as the people you say who whitewash our culture. You just whitewash someone, you just blackwash someone else's culture because you want a narrative. And this is not empowering to me. This makes me mad. Because if I was the Egyptians, I would be mad too. So it's not really, it's not helping anyone. It's just helping you at this point. And people don't like Jada Pinkett Smith anyway. Now, especially after the Will Smith thing. And people are not going to like her even more now. So she's not helping anybody. So that's basically all I have today. It got into a rant, and I didn't want it to get into a rant, but it just happened. So I I'm just so sick of all this racial stuff going on in everything I watch. I just want to sit down and watch something. And when I know this is going to sound terrible, but black people can be like, black people think that racism, white supremacy is is bringing us down, but no, a lot of other black people, we're bringing each other down. We're bringing each other down, and it's not like, oh, we should empower our black brother and sister, like every just for doing, no, you 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 want to support, black people, that's fine, but then you want to pick and choose what black people do and how they consume media, and you think it's okay, and it's not okay. And so, and you want to point fingers when someone's doing something bad to the black people, but then you don't understand what you're doing to the community and how you're bringing us down. So it doesn't really make any sense to me. But I'm just a very, very small, insignificant YouTuber, but I just wanted to voice my frustrations out, because I hope at least one person, or maybe even no one will see this. I don't know. I don't really care. I just wanted to get my voice out, and I just, it's not right. It's not right what I don't it's not right what these historians signed on to do. I don't even know if I I don't know why Netflix would think this is okay. I mean, I don't I don't know why Jada Pinkett Smith would think this is okay, but I don't know why black black people were involved in this. I don't know why this shouldn't have been a race thing. This could easily have been avoided, but you chose to do something else. There are a lot of other black queens. Hey, you know what? You could have even, you could have even gone, just talked about black aristocracy in the world. Not even just, you could have ventured out of Africa. There are black aristocracy anywhere, in other places too around the world. But you had to choose Cleopatra. It's it's too much, and this is not showing black nationalism. This is showing how we are a farce. You want everyone, all the other races, all the ethnicities to take us seriously, but you're making fun of your own race, basically. That's what you're doing. And I can't get behind someone who does that. Not as a scholar, not as an intellectual, and not as a black woman. I can't. So that's all I have to say. Bye.